Daylight come and me one go home. Got another patch. Experimental build 88185, aka Season 4 experimental patch 3. Yeah, 3. Probably the last one. I was only expecting one more. But they've been doing a good job with this. I think it's a pretty fast rate, considering there was only like 2 days between the last two. Those both pretty significant, and this came right after the weekend. It's Monday, so I'd say they've been doing this pretty fast. I wouldn't be surprised if they get one more out, but I'm satisfied with this. I will say, engineer's been left out of it in the balancing department, and this doesn't change that. There's a few things here. This is the smallest one out of the 3 patches, but it's just leading us towards a more polished season 4. It's actually going to bring more content than we expected. Kind of, and I do mean kind of, because I'm talking about changes to overclocks. Actually, when I say more content, right? But I do consider them. You can't call that stuff more content, but you can call it valuable changes. They will have long-term value, and that's no different here. This is maybe the biggest one. It's only one thing though. There's like 2 things to talk about in terms of balancing here, but they're pretty significant. So, but let's just go through. New randomized UI in the different terminals, plus pickaxe randomization fixes. Good. And now I just realised, I think the pickaxe randomization has been around for a while. It honestly feels like it's been around longer than the wardrobe one, but I don't think that's true. Tweaked septic spreader HUD overlay particle, voice lines volume tweaks. Okay. Fixed neurocorrosive toxic catalyst looking weird with large enemies. Well, thank God they made it not look weird. Added red point light on stinger tail tip when it does its sting attack. Good. Visual indication of attacks is always a good thing. Fixed firm exhaust feedback for the Drac. Overclock for plasma car by not staging damage upgrades correctly. I don't know if that will result in it feeling any different. That feels like it might just be an internal thing. Fixed a reload bug on the sawed-off shotgun, causing it to reload sooner than intended with some mod setups. That could be more significant than we think. Because if you've seen the Lazy Made video, you know that reload time is kind of decreased by taking more fire rate because it makes you start reloading sooner. If this changes that, then that might make double trigger, the modification, less valuable, which would be interesting because I think it would still be worth using because of the burst damage you can get with it. But it might not be a must pick anymore. Not that I think it is. I think it's objectively the best pick, but I don't think it's a must pick. Increased wind up time of Stingtail grab attack, so it did actually feel like they made it too quick. That's interesting. Added a sound when you're grabbed by the Stingtail. Good. Feel like that should have been there already. Fix some visual wonkiness with the Stingtail melee attack. Good. Attempt to fix Plasma Burst to OC from doing crazy damage spikes. I haven't seen the crazy damage spikes. I don't know if that's just like, if you take that example video of that guy trying to claim that it was too powerful, where he killed twins with it. Just the Arbalest. I don't know if it's that, or if they're actually referring to the floating rocks, because they're in a position now where that should definitely disappear, you know. Plasma Burster used to be a terrible, terrible piece of shit overclock, but the only use for it was actually on escort duty because for some reason it insta-killed the flying rocks. And that obviously was never intended, but it was still something that it had, and now there's actually reason to get rid of that. I hope that that's what that's referring to. Fixed save game getting into a state where switching frameworks was impossible. Oh dear. Oh dear. Players now have no air control while in the air after being grabbed by the Stingtail. Is that a good idea? I don't know. There's still some time in experimental though. Maybe that could. We'll see. Fixed Stinger not using its grab attack. Yeah, it probably should. Good. Fixed flare gun darts. Why do they call them darts? Cannot damage small enemies. Shredders, larvae, and rockbox blisters. I thought they already tried to fix that, I guess, but they failed the first time, I suppose. Stingtail now plays its Q more often to help players locate it more easily. Sure. Added sound for when stepping on a plague heart slime trail. Ugh. Fix Stingtail grab blade to make it more visible. Fix Stinger playing a grabbing sound when it gets alerted. Fix paint job for Robot Rebellion where cloth part was one-sided. Good. Fix bug where gunners see through one-sided Robot Rebellion armor fix. I don't quite know what that's referring to. Updated randomized UI so main dice hover button looks less like a button. Okay. Bicycle is now translatable on the Jetty Boot arcade. Added Norwegian language, equipment terminal stat display fixes, adjusted timings, fixed walking play cart step on bath sound. Great. Fix that you could click randomize button while it was invisible. I don't know how it becomes invisible, but okay. Bits crash when randomizing uninitialized loadout. I don't know what an uninitialized loadout is. I assume that's when you haven't picked it. Yeah. Right? Or when it's not your class. As in, that's the only way to pick a loadout. That isn't like select. I don't know. Some more overclock changes. We got double barrel. The gun now fires both shots simultaneously, which is interesting because obviously they've reworked double barrel, or over the course of 2 patches, they've reworked double barrel to a balanced version that actually is a blast wave focused overclock. So it's interesting to me that they've chosen to completely double down on that. And as far as I know, this is a good thing in the context of it still being double barrel. I am still kind of like a bit leery on whether or not they should have kept that up. I feel like they probably should have just dissolved that aspect of the overclock. Possibly even introduced another penalty, because it does seem quite strong, but maybe get rid of the double barrel part. I'm not sure. Maybe reintroduce double barrel as its own thing. But speaking of overclocks, it needed some attention. And I'm not going to take any kind of responsibility for this. I've talked about, manual guidance cutoff being a really useless overclock. People talked about it. It's not good. It's one of those bad cleans. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's a bad clean, which makes it pretty close to the worst thing in the world, if you ask me. But they decided to go the whole hog and just turn it into something completely different. Replaced the clean manual guidance cutoff OC with a new unstable Rocket Barrage OC. What the hell does that mean? We'll find out. It doesn't explain what it is, but that just sounds, they just turned a clean instantaneously into an unstable. But from where I'm standing, that's just a new overclock. Obviously replacing a previous one, but still. I kind of don't want to see this. I kind of want to wait until I actually get my hands on it. I mean, I've only got to wait 10 days, which, yeah, 10 days. 9. What? Anyway, that's actually all the patches, but still, it's interesting. And I do think this is probably the final patch during experimental. But like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if there's more, but I think they've done some good stuff here. The only thing is, there's still plenty of overclocks that could do with these changes, but I wouldn't expect them to get through all of them in one go. I think, obviously, they got to focus on bug fixes as well, and actually, putting out the update itself, and then then they'll probably start to want to just make sure that it's working across all platforms, and then they'll want to probably move on to the next thing in a couple of weeks' time. So I wouldn't blame them for stopping doing this for a little bit. There's been some good stuff overall. Engineer's been left out a little. Engineer's been left out. He got 1 overclock changed. To be fair, Scout only got 2 changed. But Gunner actually got the most attention, which is kind of weird. Like the Hurricanes getting a boost this season, which is pretty cool actually. Because and this is actually exactly what I thought should have happened, right? I feel like I might have said this before. Obviously, okay, so the patch is all done. If you enjoyed this, thank you. If you've watched up to this point, I've been through the patches, so that's cool. But I was just thinking about what I have said about the Hurricane, and that it's definitely not one of the ones that needs a rework, like the GK2 and Sabata. It's more so, and I do think its default state is underappreciated, but the only problem with it is that it has a few stinkers in terms of overclocks. And kind of upgrades as well, mainly nitroglycerin and also napalm could be. I think the tier 5 is a bit much less interesting than it could be. Nitroglycerin is interesting, but it's just bad. Napalm should be something else. Not that it's actually very good, and so it's done. But it just had plasma bursting missiles. It's a real just terrible downgrade overclock. They completely flipped the switch on that. It seems like it's really good now. And then there was manual guidance cutoff, which just paled in comparison to even other cleans, I can't remember what it's called, but there's another clean that increases fire rate and missile speed, which is just immediately better than manual guidance cutoff, which increases missile speed, I think, more than that fire rate overclock, but it also cuts off the guidance. Anyway, I assume I don't know what Rocket Barrage would be. Would it be a burst? I mean, because that's just kind of like salvo module, but if it's a burst in that you can direct the burst, or I don't know. Cluster rockets? I don't know. Either way. What I meant to say is that the Hurricane's really just a weapon. All it really needs is for its weakest links to be given a facelift. It doesn't need a rework on the whole. and they have reworked its bad overclocks. In my opinion, complete overhaul, like just complete replacement of manual guidance cutoff. It's a different name and a different category. It's just a brand new overclock essentially. And then Plastic Burst Missiles was pretty much reworked in how it functions, in the sense of not colliding with terrain. It's not really a rework, it's more so just working how it should, but it's still a pretty major facelift. So yeah, I'm happy about this, and you take a list of all the other bug fixes and just sort of tweaks and here and there. They're just doing a lot of polishing, and I get the feeling Season 4 is going to feel very polished, and it's actually going to bring a lot of intrigue to the game for us, certainly, maybe more so than others. I don't know, but these overclock changes just got me so excited. Obviously, there's not a lot in this patch on its own, but that manual guidance cutoff change, or should I say that Rocket Barrage introduction, intrigues me greatly. So, but that's all. Of course, I will cover any future patches. Obviously, I feel like I've made a point. I feel like I've made that clear now. Certainly, any experimental patches, probably all actual patches, just in general. I think it's clearly a good idea. People clearly like this and respond to this. So, and I enjoy doing it. I enjoy seeing the patches, just put on a personal level. Anyway, so I like the surprise. I like. Well, actually, I always read them before doing the video, but either way, thank you so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this, please make sure to like, subscribe. Stay tuned for. Like I said, I'll keep up with all patches. So if that's what you're here for, it's a good idea to join the club. Either way, that's all. Not all for today, actually, but all for this video. See you next time.